In this tutorial, we're going to take a look at counting significant figures and rounding significant figures. Remember that every measurement has to have a numerical value and the unit of measurement. So for our first example, 3,300 degrees Celsius. These trailing zeros here are not significant. So the only significant digits here are these guys right here. So we only have two significant figures. These zeros are called placeholders. They tell us how big the number is. So we can rewrite this number, maintaining our two significant figures, as 3.3 times 10 to the third degrees Celsius, maintaining our two significant figures. In our next example, 0.0000176 grams. Our leading zeros here, again, are not significant. Again, they are called placeholders. This time, they tell us how small the number is. These are the only significant digits. So we have three significant figures here. And we can rewrite the number without the placeholders as 1.76 times 10 to the minus fifth grams, again maintaining the three significant figures. In our third example, 110.5 kilograms. The zero is sandwiched between non-zeros, so all four of these numbers are significant. If we wanted to rewrite this in scientific notation, we would rewrite it as 1.105 times 10 to the second kilojoules. Again, we still have these four significant figures. In our fourth example, 270,000 kilocalories. Our trailing zeros here, again, are placeholders. They are telling us how big that number is. They're not really necessary, so they are not significant. So we have four trailing zeros here, so we have two significant figures. We can rewrite this number in scientific notation, getting rid of those trailing zeros, as 2.7 times 10 to the fifth kilocalories. In our fifth example, 0.980 pounds. The leading zero here is a placeholder. It is not significant. It's only telling us how small that number is. However, the trailing zero after the decimal place is telling us how precise that number is. Essentially, it's telling us that we made this measurement with an instrument that can measure out to the tenths, hundredth, thousandths of a place. So all three digits here are significant. If we wanted to rewrite this in scientific notation, we would write 9.80. We have to keep this zero to have three significant figures, times 10 to the minus 1 pounds. In our last example, 5 notebooks. This is something different. This is a counting number. We are simply counting as whole numbers how many objects we have. This would apply to, for instance, 25 students in a class, 100 pennies in a jar, 36 horses in a pasture. So all counting numbers actually have an unlimited or infinite number of significant figures. Why? Because it's exactly that number. 5, it's implied that it's 5.00000 onward and onward. That's an unlimited number of significant figures. So any time that we have a counting number, it is going to be an unlimited number of significant figures. Now, what if we wanted to round all of these numbers to one significant figure? We could start and look at our scientifically notated numbers, or we can look at our regular numbers here. Either way, this is one significant figure. We're going to look at the next digit. If this digit is less than 5, this digit stays the same. If it's greater than 5, we would need to round this guy up. Well, since it's less than 5, we don't need to round up. So we can write this. These are all 1 sig fig here. We can write this as simply 3,000 degrees Celsius, or in scientific notation, 3 times 10 to the third degrees Celsius. Rewriting this number to 1 sig fig. Here's our 1 sig fig. Our next digit now is greater than 5. So that means that this guy has to be rounded up. So we could rewrite this as 1 sig fig as 0.00002 grams, or in scientific notation, 2 times 10 to the minus fifth grams. In our third example, here's our 1 sig fig. Our next digit is less than 5, so we don't need to round up. So we would rewrite this as 100 kilojoules, or 1 times 10 to the second kilojoules. In our fourth example, rounding to 1 sig fig, here's our 1 sig fig. The next number is greater than 5, so we have to round this guy up. Okay, we can look over here and look at it the same way. Here's our 1 sig fig. Our next number is greater than 5, so our 1 sig fig needs to be rounded up. So we could write it as 300,000 kilocalories. Remember that these trailing zeros are placeholders and are not significant, so here's our 1 sig fig. Or we could write it as 3 times 10 to the fifth kilocalories. Here's our 1 sig fig. In this example, 1 sig fig, here's our 1 sig fig. Again, the second digit is greater than 5, so this needs to be rounded up, okay? Or we can look over here. Here's our 1 sig fig. Our next digit is greater than 5, so this needs to be rounded up. So as 1 sig fig, we would write this as 1 pound, or we could write it as, hold on a minute. In our last example, we cannot round. So we have an unlimited number of sig figs, no rounding.